cameras roll.
If something wasn't screwed up, I'd think something was wrong.
Right. I would think aliens would have gotten a hold of you. And you are not the mic.
Mm-hmm.
I have grown to know. You okay in the lighting over there?
I am spectacular.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fire up this June bug.
Mm-hmm. You know Junebug?
Yeah.
Cool.
I used to play basketball with him.
Really?
Yeah. His name was Junebug.
Huh.
And the only reason why was because he looked like a June bug. Big bulbous eyes. All right. I guess we're going to start?
Yes.
Here we go.
And now for something special. The unit is self-contained with its own saddler, farrier, wheelwright and so on. It's a rigorous training dished out who know all there is to know about horses, and it brings results.
We take you behind the scenes now to show just some of the interesting aspects of this training.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, the #1 podcast to create sound of horses from the ground up. Sorry. The award-winning #1 podcast to create sound of horses from the ground up. Mike Stine is a registered journeyman farrier with an APF1 accreditation. On this week's show, talking terminology, we're going to talk about articulation and what it means. Also, the importance of a trim as a foundation and the factors influencing shoe-horse environment. I guess that's what it is. I can barely read my own handwriting here. So we're going to talk about the factors influencing shoe choice environments. All this and much more will be discussed here on Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. And over to my far right side is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. We had a little hiccup.
I got you twisted up, didn't I?
Got a little hiccup here in the morning, but that's all right. We'll be doing just fine during this show. So, Mike, I have a observation for you.
Right.
So, as you know, we have Cayenne out here.
Yep.
And we have Diego. Not Diego. Well, we have Diego.
We have Diego, but yes, but not here.
And then we have Dominique. Now, what
yep.
is Cayenne? What do you classify Cayenne as far as a horse?
I would say a spicy, hot little pony.
Okay, but as far as the size, what size is it? It's not a Shetland pony. It's not a pony. It's a miniature horse, correct?
If that's what you call it.
Okay, I'm going to call it a miniature horse.
Call it a miniature horse.
Now, don't forget, for every podcast we have a matching video over on YouTube, the Equine Dynamics Mike Stine channel. Make sure you give us a subscribe over there because we have a lot of stuff, a lot of elements here in the studio, and you can see those in real time as we're talking about it here, and you can hear the whole entire podcast in its entirety over on the YouTube channel as well. And the reason why I bring this up,
right?
I have a friend over on TikTok.
You have a friend?
And she lives on a cul-de-sac, and the end of her cul-de-sac and she lives down in Florida, I think the Ocala area. The end of her cul-de-sac is a wide open, fenced in, probably 50 acres, just wide open fields.
Right.
And they have horses there.
Right.
So she's lucky enough, she has two beautiful little girls, and the horses will come up to the fence and they'll feed them apples and carrots and all that stuff. This new horse has shown up, and they are freaking out. They're like, this horse is amazing. Look at this horse. Now, I'm going to switch over to camera 6 here, and we can see this video. This is the actual TikTok video of my friend realizing about this new horse that's on the property behind them on their where they live at. So here we go.
Okay.
Hi.
Listen to this.
Well, hi there, baby. Hi. Oh, my goodness. Hi, baby. Hi.
So if you're watching us, there's a miniature horse out there.
Right.
And my friend, who's not a horse person, thinks this is a baby horse. It's a brand new baby horse because it's small.
Right.
So I just want to, here we go. Let's see.
I just got done cleaning. Hi, precious baby. Well, welcome.
So call me whatever you want, as long as you're feeding me stuff.
Exactly. Now, if you're looking at this horse, this is a blonde or a white horse.
Right.
And you can tell by the muzzle that this is an older horse. So watch again if you're watching this here.
Where's your mommy?
Where's your mommy at?
There's mommy over there.
It's not her mommy. It's just another horse in the pasture. But look at the muzzle of this horse. You can tell it's got some age on it.
Yeah, I expect so.
Hi, sweet baby.
It's like, I'll be a baby as long as you'll feed me stuff.
You can call me whatever you want. Just don't call me late for dinner.
That's it. Don't want to be late for dinner.
So she's like, I'm shaking.
You are so
Watch this. I'm a good beggar.
You're so precious. Welcome.
I can get these people trained to feed me stuff constantly.
Yes. This is a new.
You?
Listen.
What is this fur on your head? Oh my gosh! You know what he reminds me of? The guy from Lion King.
Okay. So there you go.
You can come closer. Oh, okay. Hi, baby. Okay.
So this friend of mine that's on TikTok,
Right?
thinks that, and I went back in to her account and I said, hey, look, I said, that's not a baby. I said, that's a miniature horse. They do come
How
that
did
small.
we end up going from horses
17
to
hand,
ponies
yeah,
to horses?
to miniature horses.
Right.
I don't know, but that's what happened.
Ponies are smaller than horses, but then horses are smaller than ponies.
I don't know. I don't know the the schematics of that, Mike. That's way out of my intellectual
Yeah.
intelligence.
Well,
So I just thought it was funny that she thought that just because it was a small horse that it was a baby.
well, that baby horse is working it for everything it's worth,
yes,
right?
yes, I am a baby. Now you've got some concerns and stuff on a more serious end that you've been coming across as of February 1st. Now, we broadcast every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for everyone out there paying attention of what time we actually start the show. And we broadcast every Monday just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, a beautiful little town we like to call Marshville. Now, as of February 1st, which is this past Saturday, I believe,
Right.
There's a new law that's being passed for horses?
That was passed a little while back.
Okay,
And,
so like 6-8 months ago.
don't know the exact dates, but yes.
okay.
But
So what is
it's not been real clear as to how it's going to affect anything.
So what's the title of this new bill or this new act?
I do believe it is the Horse Protection Act.
Okay.
And it's not new. I think the original was 1972 with protecting some of the stuff soaring and what all with the walking horses. But the understanding of what has been added to it is pretty well going to affect all disciplines. And what has been considered soaring, which was the big problem with the walking horses, soaring to get a movement pattern, and what is able to be done with, from my end of it in particular, is where I'm worried, as far as what can be done with shoeing, what's going to be considered soaring, and we found something in there talking about the way a horse is ridden could be considered soaring. So what does that mean at this point?
Now, when you say soaring, like flying, or soaring like my arm is sore?
Soaring like we want a horse to hit the ground and hop up off his foot real quick.
Okay.
And so this will be, people checking horses at shows.
What kind of people? Like locals checking the show, or are they going to have actual?
They're going to have people that will be there to check the shows. They're using, it looks like vet techs and veterinarians, and hopefully some people that know something about horses, because this is going to be a bit of a concern for a lot of people out there. So there's nothing clear as to what punishments are. I don't know if somebody's, are you riding not perfect? Is that going to be considered soaring a horse?
Now, I know many, many years ago, and we've gotten away from this, and there's some people that still do it, but it's very illegal. Isn't it called like hobbling or something like that, where they physically strap the horse's legs up to where they can only move in a certain distance, and they've got like leather straps and stuff, and they wrap the horse entirely up, and they did it like in the 1800s and 1600s and all that to get the horse to perform a certain movement. I know that is completely banned from existence right now, but that was common practice back then. So what you're saying now is something that we're doing now is common practice that we have to be careful of, and that they're going to start looking into that, to saying, hey, that's not good for the horse, or that's not good for the rider, or that's not good for the environment, or not good for the sport itself.
Well, there are a lot of things done out there that are not good for the sports. There are things that are being placed out there that is not necessarily healthy for a horse. And, horses that are overridden, broken at the pole, that sort of deal, mechanically is not helpful to keeping a horse sound and happy for long term. And I think more and more of that is coming to light that what has been done for the show arena and what places sometimes is not always the best thing. And with breeds, if you go way back in history and what some of these breeds were in our breeding programs, if you look at, we want to refine the muzzle in the Arabs more. We want to do whatever. Some of these things have actually weakened some of the breeds of horses.
We want to make miniature horses that look like babies so they can get fed more.
That's right. So and they're good at it.
Yes. So the federal government, I guess,
there is some involvement now, and just trying to understand all the facts and where this is going to land.
And this is something that was passed prior to this previous election.
Right, prior to the previous election, and
it's
for them to monitor all the shows is going to create a whole lot more government employees.
And it's just unfolding now, so we'll find out later on as it unfolds, what's going to become of it.
And one thing that we've run across there is you're going to have one inspector per 100 horses at a show. So if you got a 400 or 500 horse show,
5 inspectors.
5 inspectors. Each inspector is going to cost not the show $1,000 a piece. If you got a 3 or 4 day show, that's going to affect your entry fees because somebody's going to have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. The main guys
it's going to run the prices up, and it's going to run the price right down the line. And then, some of the stuff like, okay, if riding the way you ride can be considered soring a horse, that can be very open to somebody's personal opinion. So what do you do there?
Yeah, how do you gauge that?
How do you gauge that?
All right, guys, we got a lot to talk about, lots to get into, so stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, you can join the podcast at any time. The way you do that is to go to equinedynamics.com. At the very top of the page says, join the podcast. Click on that, opens up a little microphone on your device. Actually, it opens up a brand new menu, and at the top of that menu has a little microphone. You can speak right into it. It comes to our inbox, and we'll play it on this podcast if you get it in soon enough. If not, we'll play it on the very next podcast. We broadcast every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, in a beautiful little town we like to call Marshville. And I get those messages in right now, and you can be podcast famous right along here in the studio with us. And over to my far hand side, my very own miniature pony is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Is that for all 3 of your identities over there?
Something, yeah.
So this week, go ahead.
A lot of people in the head talking.
Sometimes the voices are louder than they should be.
That's right.
So this segment of the show is called Talking Terminology.
Right.
And this is basically if you've heard some barn talk, some talk around the campfire, just anything like that. This is a terminology we kind of define that you might not be familiar with or know exactly what that term means and how you can use it in everyday expressions. What's that, Mike?
Can I push away for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Where are you going?
To get Peggy.
Oh.
Sorry. All stupidity.
That's okay.
But you're used to this now.
And over to my far hand side, getting Peggy off of the wall there. You going to get that one?
This will do.
Okay. This is all the stuff that you missed during the YouTube, if you're not watching the YouTube channel.
This is having to put up with mass confusion.
Right.
People ask where I live. I tell them I live in confusion.
Yeah, the corner of confusion and insane.
That's right.
All right, so do I need to switch cameras here?
Yeah, we can switch cameras.
All right, there we go.
Last second thought.
And over to my far hand side is Mike Stine holding up a part of Peggy.
Well, yes.
And what are we holding here, Mike, on the cameras for everyone watching this on YouTube?
This is a cross section of a horse's limb.
Give me this so no one's looking at that.
You can have that.
It's got your address on it.
Oh. Anyway, the articulation surface of the joint is right where you...
Well, I didn't get to the word that we were talking to yet.
Go for it.
So, talking terminology, we're going to talk about articulation. Mike, what is articulation? Articulation.
I forgot.
Alliteration is what I need.
Alliteration. Yes. If you can see where the joints come together.
Uh-huh.
And you've got this end that fits into this end, and that's where your cartilage is. And the 2 pieces of cartilage somebody will straighten us out on this, kind of are slippery and they slide on each other. And this is where the joint bends. So that would be the articulation surface of the joint. And so I guess the articulation might be the movement of the joint.
So on my handy dandy
articulates.
On my handy dandy cheat sheet here, it says the anatomy articulation is the point in which 2 or more joints meet at a single joint and may be movable joints, but it can also be stationary joints. So show us an example of a stationary joint.
Well, on this limb, if you look at the coffin joint itself, it's actually made up of 3 bones. So there's multiple joint surfaces in the joint. But on this limb, if you look at a hock, the lower joints of the hock, there's very little movement. If you look at the the pastern joint itself, between the long pastern and short pastern, the range of movement is much more limited than your fetlock or your coffin joint. And so there's not a lot of movement there. There's some movement there, but not a huge amount.
So articulation is basically just the movement of 2 bones in a joint with cartilage and all that.
Your lower joints in the hock have very little movement range, but the layers serve as a bit of a shock absorber. And it's actually built more like the human ankle.
Which is what I have.
You have a human ankle?
I do.
You sure?
Yes, I keep it in my closet.
Okay.
All right, guys, when we come back, the importance of the trim as a foundation of a horse's foot, and we'll dive into that here when we come back. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine, and he'll be right back. You got me all out of whack today.
Good. More confusion, the better.
Yes. Show this is 10. I think this is 10.
Is this one 10?
I think so. Season 11, 10. Yeah, because we end on the 17th, and we have 2 more shows.
Right.
11 and 12. Where Julia is going to be part of.
Yep.
All right, you ready? Oh, let's go back to this one here.
Yes, I am.
Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. If you don't want to go on the air, you don't want to be heard with us, that's okay. We understand. Some people get shy out there. The way you can get your message into us is write an email. And to get that email in, you go to equinedynamics.com at the top of the page. It says contact us. Fill out that little form there. Send us your question. We'll read it on the air here. Make sure you put a physical return address. We got some magnets, some stickers, some free stuff to give you just for being part of the show. And over to my far hand side, my very own free show is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing okay, Travis. How are you doing today, buddy?
Well, I'm doing all right.
Other than me messing you up.
It's all right. I'm a trained professional in some states, so I'm just hoping that this all goes together and connects promptly and correctly so people can enjoy the show.
I do promise it will go somewhere.
It'll go. So now we're going to talk about the importance of the trim as a foundation. Now, when we say as a foundation, are we talking about just getting started all together, trimming the horse, and you're talking about trimming the horse's hoof, I'm assuming?
Well, think about that tower over there in France that's leaning over.
Oh, the Tower of Pizza?
The Tower of Pizza, yes. The Leaning Tower of Pizza. And the further it leans, the further the foundation is out from under the tower, and the tower leans more, and then you won't be able to get any more pizza.
No, pepperoni's everywhere.
Pepperoni's everywhere. So anyway, when you're prepping the foot, and this is something we've discussed, and you hear things all the way around. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. This doesn't work. Oh no, widest point of the frog doesn't work, and how people are identifying it sometimes is different from one hand to the next. But reality of it is the foot has to be under the bone column. If it's if the support is not under the bone column, we end up loading tendons and ligaments and creating pressure we don't really need to create. Measuring from the inside of the wall, from the white line to white line, because it's eliminating distortions, what would be considered the widest point of the foot would be considered like the center of the mass, basically, or where it should be. If you've got a foot that is pushed forward, you'll have a lot more foot pushed out front, and you're looking from support to your breakover. Now, that meaning if your breakover, if the toe roll is within that range, and where the lever starts, that's kind of centering that up.
Okay.
And nothing is perfect from horse to horse.
It says the center of the load should be under the center of the articulation of the coffin joint. That's why we brought up the term articulation, so you knew exactly what we were talking about when we say the word articulation. So now the importance of trimming as a foundation of the horse's foot. So do you trim to fit a shoe, or do you trim to, like if you got a little hangnail or something, you want to get that out of there so the horse's shoe will lay flat on there? Or do you actually trim the hoof, let's say like at an angle, because it needs to get something back up underneath and get the bone column standing straight up and down a little bit more.
If the heels are crushed under, you need to address that and come to a solid base. And, then it's like, well, is the broad part of the frog? Are you prepping and cleaning the frog up as you're trimming? And where is that actual location? Because if the frog gets long, it can roll forward also, which will distort the whole situation. So where it terminates into the foot itself is kind of where I'm looking. And if your horn tubules, when they start to crush and roll forward, I've had a discussion here not too long ago on a horse that, yeah, thank you. I'm glad I did that for you.
A little breakfast there, Mike.
A little breakfast. It still tasted good. Second time round's always the best, right?
Oh, sure.
So anyway, I had a discussion with someone who I had worked on the foot when it was a trainer not too long ago, where they said, well, we're trying to get more heel on the horse. You had more heel on the horse. And actually, I didn't have more heel on the horse. I got the heel at a solid base where the horn tubules were straight, and the foot started to shape, not crush forward, not the toe run forward, not the forward distortion of the toe. And so the alignment of the dorsal hoof wall became straighter with the coffin joint itself. And, when you're talking about breakover, if you're looking at a really low or negative PA horse versus an upright horse, or maybe you went into the clubby end, as far as where your relationship is and how far your lever point is as far as that center of the foot is going to vary, and what the foot will like is going to vary. So it's a very individual deal. And that's why, the set rules to it are for a learning process. And then you're going to have to learn where each individual horse likes it, because you've got a horse with no sole depth. If you decide you want to back up the breakover on some of those guys are not going to like it. If you got a horse with a lot of sole depth, well, you can play with that a little bit more.
It's interesting. You brought up the new thing, the protection, the Horses Protection Act here recently. This is going to, granted, it just came out, so we don't know the full details on what they're going to be looking at and stuff. This is going to affect the total entire way that you approach a horse that's got crushed heels or something like that. Or, I know we're getting a little bit off topic as far as, the importance of the trimming of the foundation,
right.
But the foundation is letting you do your job for what's best for the horse. And is it going to just be for sporting horses or event horses or people, or what about like the mom and pop who's got,
Well, right now, I don't think they're going to be
Seabiscuit.
looking at Seabiscuit that's going trail riding out in the field. And, there have been people that have told me, when you trim a horse, if you don't make him sore, you're not trimming him good enough, and wanted him trimmed that hard. And I don't think that's ever a good idea to intentionally make a horse sore. I mean, don't get me wrong, as far as that goes. But, at this point, I do not understand the rules I'm going to have to live within as far as my job. And so we're just going to, here you are, deal with it. And I've not, at this point, I'm not clear with a lot of things, and I need to be clear with a lot of things.
So, we're going to have Richard Malgrim on the show next week.
Right.
Is that going to affect him as well? Because he does the long lining. Mm-hmm. Is that going to be something that falls underneath this new pact, this new act that's coming out?
Well, as it was said in some of the literature, that the way a horse is ridden could be considered soring. If you're trimming a horse too hard and it gets tender-footed because it's a flat-footed horse, and there was a little bit of callus knocked off of there and the horse gets sore, is that going to be considered soring? But those horses probably are not going to a horse show.
Yeah. All right, guys, stick around. When we come back, we're going to talk about the factors influencing the shoe choice of an environment. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Welcome back to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Make sure you follow him over on Facebook. And the reason why I say that is because all these different articles, Mike's going to post the new act that just took effect from on February 1st of this month about the new Horse Protection Act. He'll post that over on his Facebook page for everyone to go in there and dive into a little bit deeper. And the way you do that is to search Equine Dynamics Mike Stine over on Facebook. He's got a personal page and also the podcast page, and both of them he's very active on. He posts a lot of articles, a lot of interesting educational stuff such as this thing that's being passed right now. And Mike, also your homework is to do a little bit more diving into it, and
Right.
maybe you and Richard next week can get into a conversation as far as, because he does a lot of dealing with horse shows and things of that nature as well. So make sure you do your homework on that. All right, that's your
I'll
that's your
try
thing.
to do homework.
And over my far
I'll do it just like I did in school.
and over my far hand side, my very late for class is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
Very well. So we're going to talk about right now the thoughts on factors influencing the horse's choice of environment, stabilizing, and surface ridden on. So when we're talking about that, what are we talking about? The factors that lead into this.
Okay. The factors that lead into shoe choice. If you're shoeing a horse, sometimes your choice is to not shoe a horse because it's ideal for the situation. For horses that are shod, size of the horse will make a difference in the thickness and width of a shoe. The job they're on, like an event horse versus a Western pleasure horse versus an endurance horse versus a show jumper versus your dressage horse, and the type of arenas that that they're on will make a difference.
Now, the question I have is, I always compare the horses. All my analogies are based on, human sports figures compared to a horse, which is a sports figure.
Sports figure,
Even
yes.
though you got a rider on it, the horse basically is the athlete,
Right.
for the most part. So
It helps if the rider is athletic.
yes, it does. It does. Nice solid core and everything. When Michael Jordan goes out on the basketball court, he puts his Michael Jordan fancy shoes on.
Right.
He plays his Michael Jordan game, and then he takes his Michael Jordan shoes off and then gets his little house slippers and walks around the house all day long. Do you have horse shoes that you strictly put on for shows, and then once they come off the show, for them to be like walking around on the property, around the pastures and stuff? Do you physically switch those shoes out, or do you leave the same shoes on?
Typically, once a horse is shoed, we'll run it for the shoeing cycle. Now, that being said, I've had competitive horses that are competitive at a high end where we have something for cross country, and maybe you run it in the show jumping, but when you go into the dressage arena, you may swap that out and run something a little bit different for the dressage arena. And I've been involved in that more than one time working on some of these FEI horses. Now, there again, that's another place where some of the rulings, we're going to question what's going to happen there. Now, there are horses that I have shoed for some of the endurance horses that I've worked on. Most of my horses that are endurance, so the few that I have left at this point, are primarily in the sand. They're running in the sand. They stay eastern, north, South Carolina. So that's where they're usually competing. And these are hardy little Arabs with hardy little feet. They're not show ring bred Arabs at all. They're more like, they're Arabs that went across the desert, right? So they do well where they are. But when they go like Virginia Highlands and they're on a lot of rock, and some of that rock is that, there are places where they might be on large slabs of rock, and traction's a bit of a deal. So we don't want them sliding on the rock. We want their feet to be able to handle it, because they can't be conditioned to what they don't live in, right?
Right.
So some of them we will do something for that particular event. And then I have had horses that go compete. There are things we can do to help with the traction. There are things we can do to help with the impact of the gravel, or whatever it is, and the abrasiveness that they're not used to. And then when you come home, some of that stuff will come right back off, because we want to allow the foot to be the foot.
So you do have a house slipper. Like, let's say Diego goes out and does his show, and he's got his
Diego just wants to wear his house slippers.
Yes, I know, we all do. But I mean, you put Diego's, performance shoes on, because he's high in the back or low in the front, and whatever, this and that, and the torques and stuff. And then those shoes come off because he doesn't need that high end, response. But yet his house slippers still have the mechanics of the sporting shoes.
Well,
but they're a little bit more suitable for him standing in the stall or standing in the pasture.
Well, no, actually, with Diego, we do what we do because he's in training and he's working where he would, for fitness and conditioning and learning and perfecting new movements.
So he's always got to wear his Michael Jordan shoes all the time.
So he wears his Sure. We'll go with Michael Jordan's shoes.
All the time.
All the time.
Okay. And he doesn't get a break on, let's take his shoes off, let his feet do this now and then, or no?
Has not lately.
Okay.
But that being said, sometimes some of these horses need some downtime.
That's a big but, Mike.
And when they have some downtime and some turnout time and chance to be a horse, and sometimes they all need it, then we reapproach the situation and we deal with what we need to for that situation for however long that may be. And then when we start going back into work, well, we prepare for that too.
All right, guys, one more little segment. We'll let you get back to playing with your new baby little ponies. So stick around. You're listening to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. He'll be right back. Be a short and sweet show.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. You ready?
After I burp.
Go ahead and burp.
Breakfast is still tasty.
I had a avocado toast today, and I was like, oh, this tastes like cardboard with green cardboard paste on it.
That's quite appetizing.
Oh, I had a fried egg, too. One fried egg.
Yeah.
Oh, take some eggs home. I got plenty out there.
Okay, cool.
So I'm at the point where they're starting to produce again, so take a dozen home. Oh, that would have been bad.
Do you know how airplane mode works?
I do.
I learned recently how airplane mode works.
Busted. Sorry, Mike. Well, we had this whole show's been sideways, so.
Right.
Stop now? What's a phone call or two during the middle of the show, right?
Yes.
All right, here we go. We'll be learning to wrap up the show. Ready? Here we go.
Did we learn something
Welcome back
today?
to Equine Dynamics with Mike Stine. Don't forget, if you have any questions for Mike Stine, the way you get those questions in to him is go to equinedynamics.com, and you can join the podcast. See a little banner up there that says join the podcast. Click on that. Opens up another screen there, and you can see a microphone. You can verbally speak into that microphone, and you can be anonymous if you want, and your message will come right here during the show. We'll play it on the very next podcast. We broadcast every Monday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, a little town we like to call Marshville. And make sure you follow us over on YouTube. You can see the full-length podcast. You can see all the stuff. I got a phone call, and Mike's giving me a hard time about a phone call here on the air, and you can see all those that happened during the whole entire show.
Travis taught me about airplane mode, but yet
I did the biggest rule breaker there. You can see that over on YouTube as well. And over to my far hand side, my very own rule breaker is Mike Stine. How are you?
I'm doing good, Travis. How are you?
Doing all right. So, Mike, what did we learn today?
What did we learn today?
Talking terminology. What does it mean by articulation when we speak about articulation about a horse?
Articulation. We're talking about the direction of movement of what the joint is allowed to move. And there are some joints that their articulating surface has very little to no movement.
And on my handy dandy cheat sheet here, it says the anatomy articulation is part of a point where which two or more bones meet at a joint. They may be movable joints and also stationary joints. And what's a sample of a stationary joint?
Most of yours.
Right. Exactly.
The short pastern has limited movement that you can see here. The coffin joint has a lot of movement. Short pastern has limited movement. It's not completely stationary. Your lower joints in your hocks are more stationary than the major motion joint of the hock. And also some of the joints within the knee, the lower joints within the knee, that is actually built more like the human wrist.
And also the importance of a trim as a foundation.
Yes, getting the foundation under the bone column, getting everything where it's loaded properly. It's like a building. If you don't have the foundation directly into the building, built solid all the way around, you end up with a pizza tower that leans over, right?
Right.
Leaning. No, it's not pizza. It's Pisa. Leaning Tower Pisa.
Yeah, sure.
It's not the pizza tower. But we don't want to drop the pizzas, right?
No. So it says the center of the load should be under the center of the articulation of the coffin joint, and that's the importance of the trim as the foundation. Also, we discussed the thoughts that factor influencing shoe choices, in the environment, stabilizing, and on surface riding that the horse is riding on.
Yes.
Yes. What are some of the factors that we look for influencing shoe choices?
Ground conditioning, living conditions. Are there any pathologies we've got to deal with? The size of the horse, the job of the horse.
There's one thing on here that you have on the list here is financial and ownership of the plan and results.
Right.
I mean, dive into that a little bit, dissect that a little bit for me.
Well, there are situations where finances do definitely play into how you maintain a horse. My competition horses for optimal, keeping everything aligned, some of those I'm running 4 weeks. There are people that are just playing, I can't afford that. There are people who have horses that are pushing very hard to keep some horses barefoot that are kind of questionable whether or not they can handle it or not, because financially it is a commitment. And just owning a horse period is a commitment, and what the budget will allow. And as far as that goes, I mean, what kind of tires do you put on your car?
I'm getting ready to put some cheap ones on the Audi out there because I'm not paying another $2,500 on a car that's almost 10 years old. So
you don't think the Audi is worth it?
On a 10-year-old car where we're barely driving, 6,000-7,000 miles a year on it. No, I'm not putting.
I don't blame you for that.
I'm not doing that.
But like on my work truck that is running 50,000 a year.
I put some high dollar tires on there. So some of the things that influences is financial and ownership, hoof integrity, size, the pathologies, movement patterns, the weight of the shoe, hoof protection and support needed, and how long is the shoeing cycle are some of those factors influencing the choice of shoes for the environment that the horse is going to be riding on.
What is necessary to keep this horse healthy and happy for a long term?
All right, guys. On behalf of Mike Stine over there,
have a good day. Enjoy your ponies. Enjoy the baby out in the field that wants to eat.
Make sure you follow us over on YouTube. Make sure you email Mike Stine at anytime at equinedynamics.com and follow us on YouTube. And you can be part of the show over on Equine Dynamics. And if you'd like this podcast to perform out at your clinic location, your horse pasture field or anything like that, click on clinics over at the equinedynamics.com and we'll pencil you in and get you ready for this upcoming season. We got a couple episodes left in season 11, and we have season 12 coming up and a lot more coming up in the near future. So on behalf of Mike Stine over there,
have a good day. Enjoy your ponies. And now they're wondering if they did learn anything.
My name is Travis, saying see you next week. Sorry, I forgot to do that spiel at the end.
Just close your eyes and dream.
I think we survived
Dream
it.
on,